Hey there and welcome. You are listening to the Parkview Global Podcast. We are so excited for you to join the conversations between our global missions hosts and our amazing guests. Don't forget to follow our social media accounts at Parkview Global. Now, enjoy the podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Parkview Global Podcast. My name is Christy Mullen, and I'm the Peace Plan Africa Coordinator here at Parkview Christian Church, which is in the south suburbs of Chicago. My co-host today is Bill Carroll, our Parkview's Global Missions Pastor. We're so glad that you're here with us today, and we invite you to join us every month as we welcome different global partners to the show. Today, we are so very excited to welcome our good friend, the Honorable Sam Kawale, who is joining us from Malawi, Africa. We think the world of Sam. He's a man of God who serves people around him in so many ways. Sam and his beautiful wife, Mala, founded E3 Worldwide, a not-for-profit that serves communities in the Dowa region of Malawi. Sam serves as the chief whip in Malawi's parliament, and Sam is also our Peace Country Partner host in Malawi. I could go on and on, but suffice it to say that Sam wears a multitude of hats. So welcome, Sam.
Thank you very much. It's good to be with you.
We're happy to have you, like I said. Would you start by telling us just a little bit about the country of Malawi and the people of Malawi? Help our listeners get a feel for everything that you get to experience every day.
Yeah, so Malawi is in the southeast part of Africa with a population of close to 18 million people. And most of the people live in rural areas. Very small number of people live in urban areas, but very friendly country, very peaceful, and we're just happy people. Just gone through a very interesting period politically. Everyone seems to be happy with the changes, and we look forward to see how these changes will translate into development for this country. So, for those who haven't been to Malawi before, let's just wait for the COVID-19 pandemic to be over so that we can host you and enjoy the
Yes,
beauty and also the joy that people of Malawi bring to visitors.
it really is it's a beautiful country. I mean, you have mountains. You obviously have a lake that's almost as long as the entire country.
Yeah.
The wildlife is amazing. You have one park in the north that is like the zebra capital of Africa or whatever. Like it's such an amazing, beautiful country.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So, in terms of natural resources and the game parks, we have quite a number of them across the country. People go see zebras, a few lions on the increase, a lot of elephants, for your information, and just other different types of wildlife. So we're very happy about that. Uh, and you mentioned about the lake. The lake, that's where a lot of people like to go just to enjoy the fresh water, do a little bit of water sports, but just hanging out on the beach. So those are some of the things that we're so proud of as a country.
And as my co-host, who's a biology major, loves to point out, Lake Malawi has the most number of cichlid fish species in the world.
Yes, it
Well,
does.
you read my mind. I was just going to say that.
But also, when you're in the boat, like going from
Yeah.
Hippo Lodge to the wildlife park where we usually do our safaris, like the hippopotamuses in the river. I mean, like it's hundreds and hundreds. Like it's crazy. It's amazing.
Yes, they're all over the river. That's why, personally, I love taking that drive into the park on the boat because I just love seeing the hippos in the water, not just the hippos, but also the elephants, either in the water
Yes.
or on the
That's
riverbank.
so beautiful.
It's just incredible, and especially when the elephants are crossing the river from one side
Oh,
to the other with the baby elephants in tow. It's just a beautiful sight.
I loved seeing the baby elephants. They were so adorable.
Yeah.
We just talked for 5 minutes about safaris.
elephants,
That's right. Okay.
But I also would like to point out, like, look at what your background, Sam. Like, that's what you see every day. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely
If
gorgeous.
you're on YouTube, you can see Sam's backyard, which is amazing.
Thank you.
So, Sam, how about taking us back to the very beginning? Because you were connected with the peace plan long before Parkview. So, can you tell us how those seeds got planted?
Yes. So what happened was I had just graduated from college, and Parkview before Parkview came to Malawi, but Saddleback was launching the peace initiatives across the world. The way they were doing it, they were using the small groups so that they could go and do the peace initiative. So in Malawi, they found me working for a Christian radio station, and then I was recruited as a country coordinator. The difference is that at that time as they were using the small groups, uh, it was difficult for continuity of the peace initiatives because there was high turnover of people coming through Saddleback, and those who came in earlier, they had left. Those who came in later on, they were not sure how to continue where the other people left off. So and also for sustainability of the projects, because there were about 7 churches that they were working with in Malawi, and that was a little bit difficult. So when they phased that one out, they ended up making sure that they ended up just moving to Rwanda, and they changed the whole way of doing it. Instead of just using the small groups, it was now the whole church that was involved in the peace initiative. So that's why they left Malawi. So about 10 years later, on 8 years later, in 2013, that's when I met someone who was very familiar with the success story of Rwanda and how the peace initiative was working there. And in our conversations, he didn't know that I was actually familiar with the whole peace plan, and that's how I ended up getting back to the peace initiative. And then he was like, "Okay, then next month there's something happening in Rwanda. I would like to come and meet Rick Warren." Then when I went to Rwanda to meet Rick Warren, that's when I found Saddleback. I mean, Parkview was there. Pastor Tim and the crew was also in Rwanda to learn more of the peace initiatives in Rwanda, so that they could actually start implementing in Malawi. So that's how it happened.
Love it. Love it.
Before you guys even got involved with Peace Plan and Purpose Driven, all that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
you and Mala had already started E3 Ministries
yeah,
in Doha East. So like,
yes.
how did that start? And like, yeah, tell us about your heart for Doha.
With my involvement in the peace initiatives, something was planted in me because when the project ended, when they moved back to the US and Rwanda, I accumulated so much wealth of information and knowledge about the peace initiatives. So when I went back to work, I moved from Transworld Radio to Plan International. I only worked there for about 3 years, but I was very unhappy because what I had learned in the peace initiative is something that I believed we need to do when it comes to community transformation. So I told my wife, I told my family to say, I don't want to work, to be employed anymore, but I want to start a ministry so that I can be able to implement what I had learned in the peace plan. So in 2009, I shared the vision with my family, with my friends, with Mala, and then with a church um, in Seattle, Allen Creek Community Church in Marysville. Then they said, we want to partner with you because that's a very good vision. So 2009, that's when we started the ministry known as E3. E3, we're actually very lazy in coming up with a name for an organization. So we're like, okay, what do you want to do? Okay, we want to educate people. Why do you want to educate them or to empower them with knowledge and skills? And why do you want to empower them? Well, so that they can be employed or they can employ other people. So that's where the E3 came from: educate, empower, and employ. So E3 is the name of the organization. So our goal was to meet people's both physical and spiritual needs. What we set out to do was to make sure that for people to really understand the love of God, that God loves them, and share the word of God, for them to be transformed spiritually, we also had to meet the physical needs. In Malawi, physical needs are a barrier for people to really understand and grow spiritually. That's a fact. You find that we have so many ministries, we have so many churches that are actually working in Malawi, but you find that the spiritual growth is very, very shallow. Simply because when people go to church, when they go back home, all they're thinking about is how are they going to meet the physical needs. So for us, we said, let's go out and help them be able to. So we meet their physical needs, but also we help them meet their own physical needs, so that when we come and share the word of God, the physical needs should not be a barrier for them to really understand the love of God and how God would want them to have their lives transformed. So that's how we set out to do E3, and we've been doing that since 2009 up to today.
Well, I think one of the coolest parts of the story is that, I mean, after several years of change and relationships in Doha, they actually came back to you and said, "Sam, would you possibly run for parliament and represent us?" And so unpack that story a little bit, and please explain the wonderful title of Parliament Whip or Party Whip and what that means.
So it was around 2012. Someone just came and said, we were actually doing a mobile medical clinic. So someone just came and said, oh, I want to talk to you. So I said, about what? He said, about you running as an MP. So I said, oh, thanks, but I'm busy right now. So let's talk after the clinic. So, and that was in the morning, and the gentleman actually stayed all the way up to 4 p.m. when we're
Wow.
picking up everything. So he told me again to say, people want you to be a member of parliament. I said, okay, thanks for letting me know. I'm not ready, so we need to leave. So we went. When we were doing another medical clinic, he followed us to that new venue, and he said exact same thing. I told him I'm not interested. Then a few weeks later, someone calls and he says, I need to talk to you because people want you to be an MP. I said no the first time. He called me another time. I said no. He called me the third time. And so he's asking, oh, where are you? So I said, oh, I'm driving past a village known as Chibanzi. I'm going to see some projects. So he's like, oh, I'm also right there at Chibanzi. So there was no way I could have run away from him, but just to stop. And he came over, he said, okay, I'm the district chairman. People have asked me to meet you so that you should be a member of parliament. I said, why? Said because of everything that we've been doing, the sports ministry, the medical clinics, the food production, and the education. So we want you to be a member of parliament because we think you can be able to do this at a larger scale. So I was like, okay, there's no way of running away from this. I've said no to different people before. Let me go and consult my family. And I thought my family were going to be so loving to me by telling me no, but they actually said yes. So I was not very pleased about that. And then I talked to my wife. My wife was like, I thought my wife was going to be, politics is bad. Let's focus on what we're doing. And my wife also doesn't love me that much. She said yes. So I was mad at her.
You can't say no
So
to your wife.
yeah. So the thing is, pretty much everyone who I had asked to say, what do you think about me running for parliament? Pretty much everyone said yes, apart from two people. They had their own reasons. But everyone said, go for it, go for it, go for it. And then uh, until Dr. Lazarus Chakwera came on the scene and he said, okay, I'll run for the president of Malawi. And that, for me, it was clear. It was clear answer from God to say, okay, now you have someone that I would like you to work with, so that you can help him in how to change the country. Then I ran as a member of parliament, and people just came out of nowhere just to support me in my campaign. And the first year, I won 60% of the votes as a member of parliament. And I was happy. I stayed for 5 years. And then last year, we went again for elections, and then they voted for me again. Actually, last year, the competition was tougher than in 2014. But I actually managed to win again with a very large margin. And by the grace of God, the first 5 years I was given responsibilities in Parliament, but now from last year I was given even a bigger responsibility as the chief whip. A chief whip is someone who looks after the members of Parliament from your political party in Parliament. So you're supposed to look after their welfare. You have to coordinate everything that happens in Parliament. So you are the point person, or you are the leader of the political party of all the
Wow.
members of Parliament. It's a tough task. Uh, Leading over 70 members of Parliament, who each one of them in their own rights, they are leaders. So everyone thinks they're a leader. So you have to lead leaders, and that they have very strong opinions of things. So I was just very fortunate and blessed that I was given that opportunity to serve them.
That's great. And obviously, we can't not go on without talking about the fact that just 2 weeks ago, Dr. Lazarus Chakwera was elected president of Malawi. Dr.
Yes.
Lazarus is a friend of the peace plan for a long time,
Yeah.
as well as leader of the Pentecostal churches. Is that right?
Yeah, the Malawi Assemblies of God, but also in Africa, but he also serves as a secretary at the world level.
Wow. So what a great opportunity. So Sam, just take a minute, unpack that a little bit. What are some possible changes that you see possible now with Dr. Lazarus as the president of Malawi?
Well, firstly, what everyone is expecting is to see transformation, and not just transformation by name, but also by things that will be happening on the ground. He came up with the 5 principles that we're supposed to follow if the country is going to develop. So we have what is known as the super high five, servant leadership. The people expecting every person to serve Malawians, not to rule over them, not to be bosses over them, but to really serve them. So servant leadership. And the country is broken right now. We need to unify the country. Broken politically, in terms of religion, in terms of where you're coming from, the social fiber of the whole country is broken. So we need to unify the country. The second thing. And then in terms of prosperity, we don't want very few people to prosper. We want everyone to prosper together. And we have so much corruption. We need to end corruption. That's the fourth thing that we're supposed to follow. And then the last thing is the rule of law. We don't want people to do whatever they want at any time. So those are the 5 things that we're expecting to happen in the country. And we know that if someone who believes in the biblical principles on how to transform the country is going to help us to achieve that. So the expectations are very high, not just from the president, but also the members of parliament who are going to be serving Malawians together with him. So the pressure is very high, the expectation is extremely high, but we know we will be able to deliver because we have what it takes to transform
Nice.
this country.
Love that.
Sam, when you were telling your story, it just reminded me of a verse out of the book of Samuel, out of Psalm 1. Speak, Lord, your servant is listening. It's kind of like he was knocking on your door through different people, and there you are. So I love that. Um, you've talked a little bit about the churches in Malawi. Can you tell us just a little bit more about them? Um, how are they different from the city to the rural villages? How do they differ from the churches you saw when you were here in the U.S.? How are they similar?
They are different. Firstly, the differences within the country and also the differences outside, like in the US. The similarity is we serve, we pray to the same God, and we believe in Jesus Christ, and we believe in the Trinity, and we just worship Him a little bit differently, both in terms of infrastructure, but also in terms of the location, and also in terms of how we compose music. So those are some of the differences, both in the US but also within the country. In the country, between the urban areas and the rural areas, there are also differences because of the education levels. They're also different. So you find that you go out in the village, they they kind of like simplify the message so that people can really understand. But at the same time, the danger with that is also that we don't have a lot of people who are educated to be able to translate and preach the word of God. So you just find someone who understands a little bit, like an elder or a deacon, to lead services on a Sunday. Those are some of the challenges that are there between the urban areas and the rural areas. But otherwise, you find that the denominations that could be similar. We have a lot of independent churches that are both urban as well as rural areas.
So there's a long heritage there with a lot of different denominations of churches. And I
Yeah.
believe you grew up Presbyterian and Mala grew up Baptist. Will you please
Yes.
share what denomination your kids are?
Well, our kids are Baptarians, so
I just wanted that joke. I love that joke.
yeah. So simply because my dad is a pastor of the Presbyterian, my wife, the dad of the Baptist church. So
Nice.
yeah, so the kids are lucky. The grandparents are both pastors, so they get double blessings from two
Yes.
denominations.
Yes.
Amen. Can you can you talk a little bit more? Like step one for the for Purpose Driven Malawi was the pastor trainings, where they learned how to lead a healthy church. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that worked and where the pastors come from and how pastors are chosen to become part or to be part of that training?
Well, the pastors that the ones who come for the trainings are for the purpose-driven church. They actually come from different denominations. First of all, both we have what we call the mainline churches, and then we have the independent churches. So for the mainline churches, we have the Presbyterian, Anglican, and Baptist Assemblies of God, and then we have independent churches. These are like the churches that have got like just one building, one place of worship. We have lots of those. So it's a very huge, diverse group of pastors. We're very happy about that because we don't leave anyone behind. But also the education levels are also a little bit different. So we are also uh, happy about that. But in the end, we like the unity that is actually shown so that they can be able to learn and implement uh, what we actually teach them.
And you're super humble, so I'll brag on you a little bit. But you guys, you guys started with the trainings in the three major cities, which in the south is Blantyre, in central is a long way, in the north is Mzuzu. But, but now you've moved into Salima, which is over by the lake, right?
Yes. So apart from Blantyre, Lilongwe, and Mzuzu, we moved to Kasungu. Kasungu is somewhere between Mzuzu and Lilongwe. And then we also moved to Salima. And then this year, before the COVID hit, we also ended up doing the southern part of Malawi in Sanje. So that's also another place where we ended up launching our PD trainings. So we are happy. We're happy about it. That we're able to expand. If the COVID wasn't there, this year would have had even more people graduating than the previous years, because a lot of people were excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the big parts of the peace plan is the point is to unite the churches and and really bring together all the denominations. So
Yeah.
Sam, how many pastors total have we put through that basic training?
Well, last year, I think by last year it was over 1,200 by the end of last year. And this year we were actually adding close to 300 more pastors if we were to take all the six locations that we're doing the training this year. Because the lowest number
That's
of
amazing.
attendance, it was 45, and all the other places it was 50, 60, and 75 was the highest. So if we were to take all the six places where it was over 300 people, so 1,200 at the end of 2019, and then we'll be adding another 300 this year.
Nice.
That's beautiful. Love it. How so how do we go from the trainings with the pastors to actually teams on the ground? Can you kind of bridge that for our listeners?
Yes, so the trainings that we're doing, the PD trainings, it's the first part of what is supposed to happen, what churches are supposed to do in the community. The peace plan is supposed to come after the training of healthy churches. In the past, or traditionally, you find that a lot of churches, they're so interested to go out and do peace initiatives, but that doesn't make them different from any other non-profit organization, because you're just meeting the physical needs of people. But a healthy church understands that for you to impact the life of someone spiritually, or I mean physically, you also have to make sure that you as a church internally, you are transformed spiritually. Malawi is a very good example of why a healthy church can have an impact. For a very long time, Malawi has always been considered to be a God-fearing nation, but at the same time, the corruption levels are extremely high. And the funny thing is, most of the people who are involved in corruption, they're coming from the church. So it simply means that the church is not having an impact in the lives of its members, because if members of the church were transformed spiritually, they wouldn't be involved in the corruption out there. So the reason why we focus so much on the purpose-driven church trainings is to help members, or to help pastors understand that before you send your members out into the private sector, into the government, into the education sector, into any other sector, make sure you disciple them really well. They understand their role in society. Then when you go out and do the peace initiatives, you are doing it not because it's going to make you feel good that you've done something for the community, but you are doing it as a response to what Christ has sent you to do. And when you do things out there, you are not taking glory for yourself, but you are doing everything to the glory of God. So the reason why we started with a purpose-driven trainings before we focus so much on the peace initiatives is because we wanted people to really understand what is important. Now, because we've done the trainings over some time, now we are going back to the alumni and start asking them, what have you done with the training? What are you doing in your churches? Have you started peace initiatives? What initiatives have you done? what's the impact in the community? What help do you need to make sure that you're having even more impact? So the follow-up is what is happening right now. Although it seems to be a little bit slow, it's because most of the pastors, uh, nobody wants to share their weaknesses. It's almost everyone wants to talk about the success stories. So we tell them, yes, the success stories are great. Would really love to hear them, but would also want to find out your challenges. And that is why we have alumni meetings. We're having them every 3 months so that they could come and share their stories, the successes and the failures, so that when they hear someone is struggling here, someone can be able to say, oh, I was able to overcome that challenge by doing this thing in this way. So we have the peer reviews during the alumni meetings, but we also are asking questions. We're asking them to give us some feedback. So we've moved from the PD trainings to the peace initiatives and working on the ground. Now, when we do that, that's when our pipe view is also going to be coming in, because that's where you are sending teams from the church to Malawi to work with the local churches in the peace initiatives. So that's where we've actually been able to do. We've done the women conferences, we've done the business trainings, and if it wasn't for the COVID-19, we had
Yes.
a year packed with activities that we were so excited about, because Pivy was coming in to plug in and help us even more on the peace initiatives.
So last question, Sam. How can our listeners be praying for you and for peace, for purpose-driven Malawi?
Well, let me start with the peace initiatives in Malawi. Um, I just wish God could just point a finger at the world and say, hey, COVID, get out of the way. My kids need to work for me. And then it just disappears, because we just want to continue doing what we're doing. So if this pandemic can come to an end pretty fast, we'll be very grateful, because Malawi is going to benefit greatly from the PD trainings and the peace initiatives. So not only are you going to pray for Malawi, but I pray for the whole world that this disease has to go away. Uh, for Malawi itself, we have a new government, new president, new leaders. Would like to ask for wisdom and also God's grace to be able to make sure that we have the transformation that people expect, and also to continue to rely on God for transformation. For me and my family, just continued safety from everything going on around the world. A lot of people are getting sick. The number of people who are getting infected is on the increase in Malawi. We are doing whatever we can to stay safe. We've limited our movements a lot, taking all the precautionary measures. So we also like to ask for your prayers and also strength to go through this really well. We are used to running up and down a lot, so staying home, just doing one or two things a day, it feels very strange to us.
Right.
Agreed.
Right. Well, we will absolutely pray for all those things.
Thank
Sam,
you.
thank you so much. We love you guys. We love you and Mala and the kids. And tell Ruth and Chico hi for us. And they're going to have a baby pretty soon, which is super exciting.
Yes,
And
that's right.
we are just so honored to partner with you, and can't wait for COVID to be over so we can all fly back to Malawi. It's killing me that I'm not in Malawi this year, but we can't wait for that. But just for all of our listeners, so you know, in the show notes, we'll have all kinds of things, links to stuff that Sam talked about, some information about Malawi, all kinds of stuff. So check out the show notes, find out lots of information. You can also find in the show notes information about all of our global partners. So please check that out. Sam, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you very much, Bill. Thank you very much, Christy, and thank you for the support that you are giving us in Malawi. We do not take that for granted, and we will be praying for you as well, Pagvio. Thank you.